Kia ora, and welcome to Constellations and All That. I'm your host, Tracy Cartwright, and together we will be exploring the world of family constellations with facilitators and clients from around the world, looking at different perspectives and experiences in the work, having a cup of tea and just chatting with some friends around their experiences in constellations. We'd love for you to join us. I hope that you enjoy this series as much as I have loved making it. Kia ora, everyone. Welcome to Constellations and All That. Today, I'm really excited to be sharing this space with Helen Younan-Barrett. Hey, Helen, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Tracy. Very well.
Great. I'm so pleased that you accepted this invitation to join me. I'd really love for you to share a little bit about who you are and just whatever's there for you for the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, okay. And thank you for the invitation to come on your podcast. I've been a big fan. I'm Helen. I am a registered play therapist and social worker. And gosh, there's many titles, but I'm also a family constellations facilitator. And I'm based in Victoria. I am the founder of the Family Systems Hub. That is a service that works with children and families who have been impacted by childhood trauma. So we work directly with these families, offering play therapy, offering systemic support through constellations or through psychotherapy. And I'm also a mum of a 12-year-old. And a big part of who I am is that I come from an Assyrian heritage, which really informs my passion of working with families. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. How did you get interested, or how did constellations find you?
Yeah. I came across constellations work with my play therapist supervisor at the time, who was in the States, and she's Argentinian, and she was studying family constellations. And she was, I guess, weaving in some of the systemic thinking as I would explore cases about families that I was working with. And at the time, so that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And at the time, I had left my marriage. I had really been working on my business and I was struggling a lot. I was struggling a lot in the co-parenting relationship. I was struggling with seeing my clients when the kids would come through and they wanted their parents in the room. And traditionally, play therapy is very focused on the child, like allowing the child to express their inner world and give space and acknowledgement and help them process. But a lot of the children wanted their parents in the room. And I didn't know how to really find a way that could support this. So I guess Family Constellations, when I started to understand it more, and I was introduced to the TV series Another Self, which I
Oh.
loved.
Which, by the way, comes out next week.
Oh, like
Part three
really?
on the
Oh,
20,
wow.
it's the
That's
23rd
exciting.
in the States, but the 24th
Yeah.
here for us.
Oh, that's really cool. So I loved Another Self, and I was like, what is this approach? And it started to make more sense to me. And of course, that then set me on my own personal journey of working through some of my challenges and difficulties I was also having in my life that was connected to my mother and my father. So
Mm,
yeah, it became a personal journey first, and then it's now become something that I'm, wanting to integrate more in my professional work with families.
great. So did you train in Australia or?
I trained in Australia. So I
Yeah.
trained, my teacher was Edwina.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
so I trained with her, who was amazing. But then I've also informed, I think when I came across family constellations, I just wanted to know so much about it. So I
Mm,
started reading, I started watching videos. So it's been an informal study, but more recently, more of the formal training.
fantastic.
Mm.
I love that you're incorporating it also in with or alongside of the play therapy. Can you
So
talk a little bit about that?
yeah, so up until I would say probably the last year or so, I have been really taking on looking at the cases that I have and what my team has. And as I'm supervising, I'm always now just looking at the orders and thinking,
Mm,
how do these orders apply to what's going on with the child who is exploring what's going on for them in the playroom. So I don't know if you know about play therapy. Do you know much about play therapy?
Hit me up. Let me
Okay.
know.
So play therapy is a psychotherapy approach for children aged between 2 to 12, and we use the toys and the play and the therapeutic relationship to help children understand themselves and understand their world that they're in by expressing. And they express that through projection. They express it through the way they play, on what they play, and how they may engage with certain toys and objects that speak to parts of themselves or their family
Yeah.
generally or events in their life. So it gives them, in many ways, like constellations, it helps you to see what is going on right now.
Is it where Sandtray work isn't?
You can
Oh.
include there's sand and figurines there, but it's
Mm,
not exclusively just that. So the child in play therapy, they direct. They
yeah.
they direct how they want to express and what they want to use. So we have lots of different mediums of play and toys and games,
Mm,
and they choose. They choose what they want to do, and through the lens of play therapy, we get to understand what that representation means for them. So play therapy can help process emotions and sensations that have not been integrated for them in their life. But it can also bring dynamics that I was starting to see maybe connected to their family system. So up and really into the last few months, we would have potentially family constellations as separate. So the
yeah.
parents would explore family constellations, and then that would give us help and understanding of what the child is also expressing. But now I've been really experimenting with looking at how to incorporate the principles of family constellations, the orders of love, in the play session. So we get to see
Mm,
where the child is being bigger than the parent. We get to see that the child is actually being the one that's more parentified because of the way who they represent in the play. So it's been really fascinating to work with those two with this
do
session.
you have the parents in the room? Obviously,
Yeah. So
yeah.
we either work with a child separately or we'll have the parent or the caregiver. And if they're together, then and we can see that, oh, the child is the one that's taking on a lot of responsibility, then
Mm.
we could work with bringing those truth sentences and have the parent step in and say, I'm the big one. You're the little one.
Oh, fantastic.
I know this is something that I'm so fascinated by, and I can see that this has a place,
Yeah.
but I'm in this research testing phase to see how we can more and
Yeah.
more understand that it's going on here. Yeah. And that also invites then the opportunity for the parents to do some of their own personal work
Mm, yeah,
because we can
absolutely.
identify the dynamic. Yep. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess too, it kind of comes to the, I don't know if you see this, but sometimes the parent brings the child because they think that the child's got this problem,
Yes.
something's going on, but there's nothing going on for me. I'm
Yes.
okay. Don't
Yeah.
even consider asking me to do anything. Is that something that you see sometimes?
Yes, of course. I think
Mm,
this has been something that over the last 2 years I've been wanting to find a way to create more safety and non-judgment for
yeah.
parents to be able to like be more vulnerable and know that it's not about blaming. It's not about that they're not doing a good enough job. It's about knowing that their child is not separate to them and
Mm,
they're not separate as well. Like they're all part of this interconnected system. And so when I set up my service at the time in 2019, it was called Play Therapy Hub. And it
yeah.
was focused on offering play therapy and empowering and supporting children. The parents weren't really front and center. So we did attract families coming through to say, fix my child. My child's got this emotional regulation issue or this problem. They need to change. But I discovered over time that actually, yeah, we were making wonderful progress and we could see the child was being strengthened, but then they would return back to their environment.
Yeah.
Then they would come back and the parents were having the same difficulty. And so I knew that I had to change this. I knew that this wasn't the only solution. We had to look more widely. And so when I came across Family Constellations, I made a decision that we were going to really expand our focus. So we then relaunched our
Mm,
service to the Family Systems Hub. And then I
mm.
started to slowly kind of again open the pathway to more parents being more involved.
Well, it's just so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And as you were sharing, because my mind was going "Woo," into my own past,
Hmm.
and it was when I was a single mum, and my first marriage had dissolved, and there was this big period of time when I was a single mum, and I had some real struggles with one of my daughters,
Yeah.
and stepped into some support, and I didn't have the capacity at that time in my life to even I needed resourcing, like oh, I was running on a thin wire.
Yeah.
So to know that this is now available, wow, fantastic. Fantastic.
It,
There's resources, eh?
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been the message for us. How can we resource you? Like, how
Mm,
can we really resource you so that you can resource your child as well? But we still get those families. We still have those families still
mm,
coming, wanting to just, like there's one thing of a parent may say, yes, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm willing to support my child, but that's one thing. But when you really get to it, it's really scary
mm,
to
mm.
confront that there are aspects of my own personal experience in my childhood that I haven't really attended
Exactly.
to.
I can look back and go, oh yeah, she was just playing out what was running in my
Yeah.
in my back office. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Crikey,
Yeah.
hindsight's a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, sure is. Sure is.
Wow.
It's challenging. So yes, it's still a challenge for us, but where the needle is moving. I do think the needle is moving, that there are more families curious and open to want to change and not
Mm.
just leave it for their child to do the changing. Yeah.
Okay. How do
Hmm.
you describe constellations? Because obviously you've got a variety of
Yeah.
people. So how would you describe it if you're sharing it either? Oh, anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I really struggle with this question, and I know that it's common for many facilitators.
you were waiting for me to ask, weren't you?
I was waiting. I didn't think it would be this soon, Tracy.
Oh, well, let's get it over and done with.
Yes, let's get over and done with. Gosh, I feel like every time I answer that, it's always different. But I would say for me, and what I do share is that it's a deeply powerful, profound therapeutic tool that can help us see the source of one's suffering that is connected to your family system. And that may be through patterns that we're not aware of. It may be through dynamics in our relationships that we're repeating, that we're not really aware of, that's connected behind us. And it can help bring new awareness. So it allows to make new shifts. It allows you to bring new possibilities of how to move through life in a way that is more speaking to your how you want to move through life, that gives you more freedom so that really future generations don't continue to carry it for you. So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. I love it. I love it that there are so many different ways, or it's the same message, but it's just, comes through in a slightly different language. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I
Thank
mean,
you.
I sometimes say, well, I guess it depends on the family, but when I'm seeing that their particular child in the session just seems much older than what they need to be, or there is a sense of so much rage being expressed with this child. I so get curious about that, and I get curious, so I try and open that pathway for parents to understand that, you know, tell me a little bit more about how rage was expressed. Was it expressed in your system? What was it like growing up with your family? What were just
Mm.
helping them understand that this may be a repetition, because often parents don't realize that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Okay, so just on that subject, so if you have a child that comes and you got that and you recognize the rage and you're talking to the parents and like, how do you invite them to express that?
For the
Or
parent or for the child?
either.
either. Well, for the child, if I mean, there's always going to be something that the child needs to work on anyway. So even if maybe the source of the rage doesn't come from them, but there's
Mhm.
still a component of that they've come into this life needing to learn and needing to um, develop and be in relationship with. So there's something for the child as well that we're supporting to build their capacity and make sense of. But then at the same time, and that would be through co-regulation, understanding all those things that's important. But then it's also if there is a lot of, if I can identify that there's so much rage, and that might be maybe connected to a dysregulated nervous system, then that might be through the first few years of life. There was difficulties in the pregnancy or maybe in the birth, or there was
Mm.
family violence going on in the initial years that would have an impact. But I'm also aware that patterns play out. So I'd be asking the parents in the session um, questions around, okay, what was the conception, pregnancy, first few years like? What was life like growing up in your family? Was there any conflict in the relationship? I'm trying to find out who expressed rage, who didn't express
Mm.
rage, to see if there's any patterns that are showing up. And
Yeah.
then that allows to hear more of the stories if they're there, And if that was something that was an issue for the parent, let's say maybe mum finds it so difficult to cope with her child's meltdowns or rages, and she can't find a way to express it, then I'd get curious about, okay, so where does that live in your childhood?
Yeah.
And then that might be, again, depending on how open they are, but that might be a process that we might do about inner child work, or maybe a process that we might do with constellation to see where the
Mm.
rage is, the symptom of that, who it belongs to, what needs to be expressed. It just depends.
That's so exciting for to know that you're, because in a way, like you shared, you're exploring,
Yeah.
and so it's like there's some new doors opening, there's some new, I think for those who are interested in constellations and interested in working with children, it feels like you're kind of on that leading edge. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, maybe. I think I still actually, what reminds me of when I started my course with Edwina, and then it was probably the first couple of months. And I started to really just see parallels between a family constellation process and the stages of a family constellation process
Mm.
of like the beginning, and then, what you acknowledge as is, and then having to separate what's been entangled and then reconnecting what's been separated. I could see those phases really in the play therapy phase that we have in our therapeutic process. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, okay, this is play therapy is family constellations for children, and family constellations is like play therapy for adults. And then it was like, so how the heck can I how do I find a way to integrate it? And so I don't have the answers yet, but I'm starting to see patterns. And the person, who was it? Alejandra Pastorio, do you remember?
Hmm.
She,
Hmm.
yeah. So she told me to look up a woman called Marianne Frank.
It was on the tip of my tongue. I was about to ask you, have you seen any work from Marianne Frank? Yeah.
So I've just started to read her
Mm.
book that I can't now remember the title, that she was experimenting in her classroom of grade 6
Yeah.
students. And
Mm.
so I was like, oh, okay. So yeah. So I'm really curious about how I grow this and evolve this, and this becomes more of a systemic approach with families in play therapy.
Yeah. Gosh, imagine if we had it in schools.
I know. Yeah, I think there's
And
been a
even if
movement.
the teachers learnt some of it, like
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
and then they would have the resources and that to hold the foundation for the kids.
Absolutely. Especially when they spend so much time in that environment, and it's another system,
Mm.
it's another family that they're
It
connected to.
is. And often they're the mother for lots of children, right? In
Of
that
course.
space at that moment, or father in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. I think the more we move towards like less pathologizing, less individualizing, and really start incorporating who is this child, who are they a part of, and how do we again understand this system that they're connected to, that they're showing us as a messenger that there's all these other unresolved experiences that, require
Yeah.
us to look at. I think it's exciting. I think it's something that I feel is missing, but it's, yeah.
How do people come to you? Like, is it something that they pay for themselves, or is there a social service that sends it to them to
Yeah.
you? How does, yeah.
So different ways. So we're a private practice, but we do accept inquiries that may be funded by organizations, community organizations like Anglicare or
Mm,
other community agencies that have funding that often come through family violence funding.
yeah.
Or we have NDIS. Do you have NDIS in your, and that's it's a disability insurance scheme. So it
It's
supports.
probably like at what we call ACC here, Accident Compensation Corporation.
Okay.
Maybe. Well, that's a national. That's something that is covers the whole of New Zealand. So,
Okay, well, this is equivalent to Australia. It's a national scheme. So families receive a block of funding that supports a child's emotional, social, behavioral development. And if they've got diagnosis, they can.
oh no, we don't have that.
Yeah. Okay. So we accept funding that comes through government and third-party organizations. And then the other part of that is private
Yeah,
self-funding.
self-funding. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah.
beautiful. And so, have you always worked with children?
No, when I started out as a social worker, I was 24 and I found myself in jobs working with homeless men and adults with disabilities in ABI, acquired brain injury centers. And
Wow. Yeah.
and I realized that I don't know what I'm doing. Like, who am I at 24 to know how I can help a 50-year-old homeless man with drug addiction?
Mm,
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I worked with adults with disabilities a lot, and it was interesting as I reflect this. I think, I wonder what took me down that line of working with the elderly and adults. And I go back to my family of origin. My father was diagnosed with schizophrenia very, very when I was very young, and I was an only child for about until I was 16, and I was raised by my grandparents and my parents. So I've
mm,
always been around adults and older people.
yeah.
So that made sense to me that I was like, I went to something that was familiar, but I really wasn't very equipped. And
Mm,
so then probably 6 years later, I hit 30 and started to feel this maternal urge to want to have children. And then somehow, I don't know why, but somehow I was just fascinated about children and wanted to learn more. And so then I did further studies in counseling and kids
mm,
and children mental health. And play therapy found me. And then that became the next chapter of my life. So since 2016, I have worked with children and families, just focused on that group.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant. So
yeah.
I'm just in the timeline. So you
2000.
already had a little one then.
Yes, I had
Yeah.
I had my daughter in 2014, and that was probably one of the significant shake-ups of my life then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Changes everything.
it does change everything. But it was also a turning point towards looking at my own family of origin. And
Mm.
I'm so glad for that, even though it was very difficult. But
Are you okay to share a little bit about that? Because you shared that you were an Assyrian,
Assyrian heritage, yeah.
not Syrian, Assyrian.
Assyrian, yes. So Assyrian, there is no country. So there is Syria, and that's by the Syrian population. But the Assyrian are a very old tribe culture
Mm.
that had their homeland or their village in southern Turkey, so where the borders of Iraq and Syria. And I guess it's the language comes from Aramaic, so we're a very ancient culture. but we were also the minority, and that was due to a lot of wars and persecution
Yeah.
by the Ottoman army. So I've come from a line of where our culture and our identity and our language was something that was wanting to be extinguished. So my parents were refugees to Australia, and so I can appreciate that for their existence has been more about survival for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so growing up, my dad was very unwell. My mum wasn't coping. She lived with her in-laws and wasn't used
So,
to that.
so
Yeah.
your father's parents came over as well to,
Yes, so my father came to Australia in the late 60s and then brought his family over as well. And then my dad met my mum in Melbourne. And then over the years, the Assyrians did migrate to Australia because it was unsafe, because they were taken over by the Arabs, and so they really had to coexist with the Syrians
yeah.
and because they were Christian and they were living in where it was predominantly Muslim, so it wasn't safe for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What a history.
Yeah,
Have you ever been back there to
no,
your to the homeland?
no, I haven't. No, I
No.
haven't been. And I think I mentioned before, I mean, before we started recording, it was again growing up, I it was very strict in our household. You had to speak Assyrian because there was this sense of we in order for us to belong and not lose out, everyone needs to uphold this this culture. Everything we stay as a family, we
Yeah.
speak the language, and I guess I found that really suffocating and I really struggled and wanted to be completely with the Anglos. I mean, so complete with the Anglos that in the end I ended up marrying an Englishman. And I was the only
Mm,
one out of the whole family that went in predominantly outside of the tradition. So it was interesting for me how I went on the rebellion side, but then coming back through constellations, it actually helped me come back to the roots of my heritage that I so now appreciate and value because it is about connection. So,
yeah.
yeah, yes.
Fantastic tool, isn't it?
Mm. I don't think I
Fantastic.
answered your question about the early, but maybe anyway, that's okay.
My question was, what was my question?
Yeah, I think it was about my early years or was it more about my my Assyrian roots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just asked you a little bit about like just tell us about that because I actually didn't to in my naivety,
Yes.
I knew of Syrian, but I didn't
Yes.
know of Assyrian.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm the only one out there that's in that space, but so
No, no.
interesting to know so much more
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's quite a large population in Australia now.
Yep. There's a big population in Melbourne and Sydney. There is a strong population in Germany and in
Mhm.
Chicago. So yeah, we're quite dispersed, but there is a growing population. And it is easily confused by Syrians. When people hear Assyrian, they don't know of that identity.
Yes,
No,
yes.
yeah, it's commonly misunderstood.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Mm.
Okay, let me see what else, what other questions have we got? Well, I'll just start with, is there anything that you want to share that you feel like, or maybe
Mm.
there's an example. Have you got any examples that you feel without crossing anyone's confidentiality or something that you've witnessed or seen in the work that you feel like would be a good share?
Yeah, I I'm trying to think. I guess for me, I keep seeing so much with the families that I work with. So I'm thinking about like a family I've worked with for over a year, and I've been offering family play therapy. So the mother and the child are together. And then sometimes the father is with the child when he can be available. And this little one, who's about 6 or 7, would often say that she's the protector of the family,
Mm.
that she would protect her older brother because she's the youngest, and that she protects her mum. And I had been planting seeds for the parents to maybe do some inquiry, into their own family and understand the dynamics of what's going on in the present system. And it been a difficulty. Like, so I respected that. I respected that the time wasn't ready, they weren't ready. And so it's only really, and it's been a year, and it's just now that the mother and the father are ready to kind of look at why their daughter just cannot handle um, any of the boundaries that they set, or they just seem to want to, move towards the mother and the brother, but not the father. And we did some work with the mother, and I've started to do some work with the father, and you can see that the mother was also the youngest in her system. She had an older sister, and her mother was had a disability. I won't share what it exactly is, but had a disability that prevented her from really being able to offer the emotional support to her daughter. So
Yeah.
she then made a decision that she was the one that could only take care of herself. So she stepped into a role of being self-reliant. She stepped in the role of not asking for help and doing lots of things for a youngest daughter. And then she started to develop a lot of symptoms, headaches, tiredness that later became autoimmune symptoms that she holds. And then what happened was she met her husband, and then her husband was the eldest of two, and he grew up in a household where his mother was unwell and often
Mm,
unable to get out of bed. So he stepped in to being a carer for
yeah.
his mother, and he had difficulty with his father. So in the present day, you've got the couple who are struggling, and he
Mm,
feels resentful towards his partner because he feels he's the carer towards. And so there's a lot of unexpressed anger and grief
yeah.
in the system. And so their daughter is the one that's going, is expressing the grief and the rage, and is also one saying, I don't trust any of you that you can hold this. So I'm going to take care. I'm going to be the protector
I'm going to be the big one and take care of all of you.
and take care of all of you. And
Yeah.
she has a lot of health difficulties. So there's just
Mm,
this patterns playing out with.
yeah.
So the work has begun to, start having the father look at his
Mm,
mother and his
yeah.
father, and her looking at her system. So there's like pieces of that happening.
And it's so interesting, isn't it? And I'm sure that other modalities see this, the pull of the two systems that come together, that are potentially there's something mirroring in one in each
Yes.
system that the reason why people end up coming together
Yeah.
and
Yes.
forming that bond, not just love, but sometimes there's that trauma bond or the
That's
missing
right.
parent bond or
Yes, because it's just so familiar. Just,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's so familiar.
Yeah, I think of my first husband who was very wounded in his journey, and so was I. So we met there.
Mm,
That was
mm,
like pretty
mm.
firecrackery.
That would be the same for me, I would say. My first, well, my only first long-term relationship was with my husband. And I remember like I was on the airplane to go to the UK. I was 24. I bought my one-way ticket to go to London, and I was writing my list of what traits I wanted to find in my future relationship. And I wrote all the lists, and on that list was all the opposites of my father. So this is at the time.
Yep.
All the opposites of my father, and I was like, yep, this is who I want. And then obviously I met my ex-partner, and he was the opposite. But in the end, I had attracted my mother as well in him that I
Mm,
hadn't really thought about. The parts of my mum that I had a lot of pain attached to that, and
mm,
I could see that that was showing up in our relationship as well, but also naively identifying that whatever I was resisting and judging in my dad did show up. It just continued to show up in this
what a blessing he
Well,
was.
yes, it's
Hey,
been the greatest
yeah.
blessing, but frick me, I was like, oh my God, how did I get this? I don't understand. How do I get this wrong? How did I attract, all of that beginning stuff that now I go, that makes total sense to me.
Mm,
That
yeah,
that had to happen.
yeah.
Yeah, for
Greatest,
me.
some of our greatest teachers, hey, they don't always come in the shiny, sparkliest of packages or
No.
softest. Um, I
No.
sometimes I do this exercise around the gift, the
Yeah.
gift from the ancestors or the gift from the mother or the father, whatever.
Yes.
And I'll say, now remember that not all gifts are sparkly or fluffy. Some of
Yeah.
them are a little bit spiky and sharp, but they're
Yeah.
still gifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When I
Like
think
that is,
about that, when you say that about the gifts, one of them for me that has been both like it's been I've seen it be a blessing, but then I've also seen it being a burden for me. And that would be the gift of working hard, sacrificing self for other. I see when I look at my parents and my grandparents who came from nothing.
yeah.
And for them, it was all about family and survival, not enjoyment of life, really. Well, enjoyment would be being with your family, but it was, and so much scarcity around that. But for them, it was, yeah, we're here, we've got food, we have a
Mm.
house, and then we just have to work really hard. And they work really hard. And that's what I did that. I have done that. And I nearly had chronic fatigue from that.
Yeah. It's almost a fitting in thing too, isn't it? Like I'm just in it's that coming into a new culture,
Hmm.
showing your worth, or this
Yes.
thinking that this is the way I show my worth,
Yeah.
um, finding your place. There's
Hmm.
so much in that.
Yes.
So when did your mother's parents come out as well, or just your
They
mum?
did. No, no, they all
Okay.
came. They
Oh
all
wow,
came.
that was beautiful that you ended up with all of your grandparents.
Yes. Yeah. I was most closest to my dad's grandparents, but yes, I felt lucky to have them there.
Mm.
And they were all with all my family. They all came from businesses. Like they set up their own
Okay.
milk bars for them. So
Yeah.
um,
It's a bit of
that
entrepreneurial spirit there.
yes, that's another gift. I'll take that. That was another gift. Uh,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yes. But what would you say for you, the prickly, like what would be one of the non-sparkly gifts?
I remember doing this. I tend to sometimes I'll give an example of,
Yeah,
I'm going to give you an example of
okay.
this piece of work. And I remember one time I like fully dropped into this experience rather than just being on the top and giving an example.
Yeah,
And it was a gift, it was the mother and the gift. And I turned and the gift just looked crazy, like this mental energy.
yes,
And I laughed and laughed and laughed because there's stories in my family system around mental illness in my mother's line. I'm sure that they're everywhere, but the
mm,
most recent one that we know of. And so there'd been a really big resistance to my gifts of my ability to, being a seer from very early age and see, hear, feel, taste, smell. All of my gifts were like, full on,
yeah,
that it felt a bit mental because other people weren't experiencing it the way I
yeah,
was.
yes,
And so turned around and saw this. It was like a ball of wiry energy. It was a person, but it was like, that's what I could see.
yeah,
And I just laughed and laughed, and that shifted the frequency. And then I was able to turn to the person that was representing my mum and nod, yeah, okay, I'm
mm,
okay with this. And
mm,
then slowly make my way to the gift and accepting it.
yes.
It was, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest ones in that
Sounds,
moment.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few, but that's probably the one that stands out the most. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So if someone wants to find you and they
Yeah.
are, because do you work online?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I have a
So
team of us, so we work online and we work in person. I have Devi Hernandez, who's in Sydney.
Yes.
She offers constellations and somatic work. People can come to Thornbury, Melbourne, if they want to have some family therapy or seek online support from
So
anyone.
Family Systems Hub.
Yep, the Family Systems Hub. Yep.
That's fantastic. And you've got some online programs coming up soon.
We have an online systemic course for play therapists about what it means to be a helper. And so we're offering a 6 weeks online course that's in sort of middle of July. We have launched our hybrid training program, Debbie Hernandez and us that we're hosting. And we're at the moment just seeking expressions of interest. So this will be a 12 months family constellations training program. And then we run family constellation workshops in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Torquay. Yeah, we're just slowly building. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you, just to share,
Likewise, Tracy.
dipping our toes into this conversation, really, because it's such a big pool.
Yes.
And like I said, it feels like you're on that leading edge of, with all the other skills that you have in your kite or your basket.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing where it takes you.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for this conversation. It's been really
You're
lovely.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for listening. Head over to Instagram and tell me what's resonated for you with this episode. You'll find me at tracy.cartwright. That's Tracy with no E, .cartwright. Or head over to my website, tracycartwright.co.nz, and receive a free audio with the gift from your ancestors. So until next time, be kind to yourself and have fun doing it.